Hey everyone, it's Jordan here from SwitchWatch. Today I've got a review of Zero Gunner 2 on the Nintendo Switch. Now this was originally an arcade game and a Dreamcast release from Psikyo, but now it's brought to the Nintendo Switch by Zero Div. Now if you know me, you'll know that I love a good shoot 'em up, so I was very excited to give this review for you guys. Is this worth your hard-earned cash? Well, let's find out. There's been a lot of excitement around the Switch and its ever-increasing library of classic shoot 'em ups. While Hamster have been busy adding Neo Geo classics like Last Resort, Blazing Star and Pulsar, Zero Div have been coming up with the good stuff too, with Psikyo arcade classics, Strikers 1945 and Gunbird. Fans of the genre have been watering at the mouth at what's coming next, and Zero Gunner 2 was high on people's wish list. As someone who's recently been converted to shooters thanks to the Switch's library, this was high on mine too. As you'd expect from an arcade shooter, the story was literally the last thing on their minds when developing the game. It's one of those where, unless you read the leaflet that the original arcade cabinet or Dreamcast case came with, you'd probably have no idea what's going on. There's literally no storytelling in the game. The story is pretty much non-existent, but I find it difficult to mark Zero Gunner 2 down in this regard because, let's face it, nobody on planet Earth plays a hardcore arcade shooter for the story. In fact, just thinking about it, it's possibly a blessing that there's no story. Had there been drawn out cutscenes and dialogue, I would have been distraught at it for slowing down the gameplay. All you need to know is that you're a cool attack helicopter that blows stuff up. The audio of Zero Gunner 2 is great and suits the arcade game well. It's not going to be your finely planned, nuanced OST that has emotion and depth. Nope, it's just a pumping metal techno mix that tells you to go out there and blow stuff up. I wouldn't say there are too many memorable tunes that will stick with me when not playing it, but not every good soundtrack has that effect either. I'd happily listen to the songs even when not playing the game though. Indeed, as I'm writing this, I was listening to the soundtrack and absolutely loving it. As a turn-of-the-century 3D arcade game, it's obvious that Zero Gunner 2 is hardly going to be the looker it once was. By this point, Psikyo had abandoned their gorgeous-looking 2D pixel work for fancier, more attractive 3D models. When I say attractive, I mean early Dreamcast attractive. If I'd never heard that Zero Gunner 2 was a Dreamcast game, I would sure have hex guessed it. It bleeds the simple but crisp and bright models that the console was known for. Nowadays, it doesn't look great, as textures are fairly poor, and it does get uncomfortably close to the screen at times, showing the low quality off in all its glory. But let's be fair, it's as bright and as crisp as it used to be. I like it, but maybe that's because I'm very accepting of classic arcade games. I know some of you will look at this game and laugh, but it's just as well that the gameplay is what's important. It looks especially fantastic on the Switch's screen, where the colours really stand out. The less than attractive visuals are also suited to the small screen much better, where their simplicity doesn't show quite so obviously. In both handheld and docked mode, I found Zero Gunner 2 to be a very smooth experience. You'd think this would be obvious due to how old it is, but you can never be too careful. Zero Gunner 2 is an excellent port. Now, with any revered shooter, there's usually some sort of gimmick in the gameplay. You may have noticed that I've not talked about whether Zero Gunner 2 is a horizontal or vertical shooter, and that's because it's actually omnidirectional, meaning the path to the end goal meanders from left to right, up, backwards. You move all over the place. Enemies come from all sides too. Zero Gunner 2 allows you to change the direction your craft is facing. Now, it's not twin stick, so the way you do it is both slightly clumsy and yet rather cool. Holding the Y or A button will plant a circular marker on the ground in front of you, which, instead of making you strafe, lets you circle around it. This way you can quickly change or adjust your facing direction at any point. No doubt you'll feel slightly disorientated at first, since the concept is a little odd from what we're used to these days, but it's both archaic and ingenious. In some ways, I'd say it's better than having a twin stick mechanism, since it requires more skill and is just generally cooler. The entire flow of gameplay revolves around this changing of direction, and you must do it at all times. Your craft only shoots forward, and enemies appear all around you and also shift themselves around the screen, especially mini-bosses and bosses. If you want to survive, then you cannot keep facing forward. When you get into a flow of rotating and mowing down enemies, it does feel very satisfying, and I do believe there must be some really high-end play potential for those who have truly mastered the game. Aside from your standard shot, which is always on auto fire thankfully, you do have a special shot which packs much more of a punch. The input is awkwardly positioned on the X button, which is a slight stretch away from the standard shot at B. Personally, instead of taking my finger off the fire, I used the special attack with my ring finger. Not ideal. These special attacks can be fairly scarce, but there is a way to get more aside from dying. At the side of the screen there is an energy bar which can be slowly filled up by collecting a gazillion cubes dropped from enemies after blowing them to smithereens. And by gosh, you will need to collect a gazillion of them in order to completely fill the bar and get one extra special attack. Something that I didn't realize until well into my 4th playthrough is that you can make collecting the energy cubes much easier by stopping firing. If you stop shooting, you'll attract the dispersing cubes to you. Not only this, but these cubes massively increase your score too, which brings a very incentivizing risk versus reward feature to the game. To stop shooting is very dangerous, as it won't be long until you get overwhelmed with enemy crafts and bullets. I suspect most casual players won't bother with this as much, but score attack fans will love this feature as it makes things hugely tense. Each of the 3 available choppers have their own unique standard shot and special attack. I tried all of them, and I definitely think my favourite is the yellow one, although the other 2 were more than usable. As with all good shooters, there is the possibility to upgrade your attacks. This is done by collecting tetrahedrons with the letter P in them. I assume the P means power. This upgrades both attacks at the same time, however there aren't many levels to upgrade as far as I can tell. You only need to collect a couple before you're fully armed and almost godlike in your power, destroying everything in your way in a matter of seconds, even bosses. There are 7 difficulty options in Zero Gunner 2, ranging from child to very hard. It's a step up at least from their previous efforts where the lowest difficulty level was hilariously labelled as monkey. I played a variety of difficulty levels for the review, and while my initial playthrough on a mid difficulty level was a bit of a mess skill wise, the times after that I realised that Zero Gunner 2 isn't the most difficult of the Psikyo shooters I've played. Indeed, I played on the highest difficulty and only found real trouble on the 7th and final stage, where the game basically says, nah, you've gotten a bit too far now. The easiest setting is practically a joke, where enemies barely fire at all. There's a wide variety of difficulties, so it's one of the more accessible shooters out there. You can still enjoy it even if you're not good at the game or just are beginning to learn the genre. As far as customizable options, there are not too many to be honest. You can change the number of lives, continues and special attacks that you can have, which is the bare minimum of expectations in my opinion. There's one extreme scanline filter you can put on, and that's about it. Zero Div, the company involved in this port, are slightly behind Hamster, who do the Neo Geo ports in this department. I would have dearly liked to have the ability to map controls. Sadly, that's not possible here as far as I can tell. As for value, it all depends if you're into mastering a shooter or not. If you're a one-time play only kind of gamer, then although you have an awesome time playing Zero Gunner 2, you probably won't get your money's worth. A successful run of the game will barely scrape over the 20 minutes mark, and a few of those uninformed buyers will be looking around and scratching their heads asking, is that it? Zero Gunner 2 is all about mastering the gameplay though, trying new things, trying harder difficulties, increasing your high score and even teaming up with a friend in 2-player co-op. If you're a lover of shooters like me, you're going to put serious time into this game, playing it over and over again, enjoying every minute. I think the gameplay is unique enough and the amount of difficulty levels makes this definitely worth the £6.99 asking price. I mean, if you're still unsure if £6.99 is reasonable, head straight over to eBay and check out how much game this is going for on a Dreamcast disc. Overall, if you've not guessed by now, I love Zero Gunner 2. It's a fantastic arcade shooter that's easily worth the measly asking price. Of all the shooters I've reviewed on my previous channel, this one definitely stands amongst the best, equal to the classics like Blazing Star and Gunbird in top tier worthiness. As long as you're a fan of the genre and are open-minded about replaying the game to master it, Zero Gunner 2 is an absolute no-brainer. If you're not a fan of the idea, then it's a much more difficult sell, but for the core audience of this classic Psikyo title, it's a no questions 9 out of 10. Okay guys, I hope you've enjoyed this review. Let me know what you think of Zero Gunner 2. Are you a fan of the genre like me, or are you scratching your heads and wondering if I'm actually mental? Don't forget, if you're a regular Switch watcher, then hit that like button. If you're new, then of course we'd love you to press that subscribe button to stick around for more constant Switch reviews far into the future. I've been Jordan from Switch Watch, and I'll see you guys next time.